We have a great game that is followed passionately by millions of fans around the world. The playing rules are the foundation of our game, designed to keep it exciting for our fans and safe for our players.
To the end zone, Jacoby Jones, does he get the feet down? Yes! Touchdown, Texans!
The rules must be understood and respected, especially when it comes to player safety. We have no higher priority.
Let's go, G, let's go!
This includes wearing the best protective equipment. We will emphasize that this year, working with you and your coaches and medical staffs. We will continue to seek your input on our rules. It's your job to understand and follow the rules, and our job to enforce them. Our staff, including new Vice President of Officiating Carl Johnson, will work closely with every team and our game officials to ensure that we are clear and consistent. Our goal is to avoid fines and suspensions. We will do all we can to help you, but ultimately, you are responsible for your actions on and off the field. You are elite professional athletes. We appreciate what you do and look forward to another great season of NFL football.
Oh my God, what a ball game.
The 2010 season presents new challenges for the National Football League. It is paramount that you play by the rules and commit to the highest standards of professionalism and sportsmanship. We have no higher priority than the safety of our players. With this in mind, the following rule changes and points of emphasis will be in effect.
The first rule change standardizes and expands the protection for defenseless players. In 2009, the protection for defenseless receivers was expanded to prohibit hits to the head and neck area with not only the defensive player's helmet, but the shoulder and forearm as well. This same protection was given to defensive players who were blocked from behind or the side when the blocker was moving towards his own end line. Beginning in 2010, it will be illegal to hit any defenseless player if the initial force of the contact by a player's helmet, shoulder, or forearm is to the head or neck area. The following players are considered defenseless and will be protected by this rule: a quarterback in the act of passing, a receiver in the act of making a catch, a kick or punt returner in the act of catching a kick, a runner who is in the grasp and whose forward progress has been stopped, a player on the ground at the end of the play, a quarterback after a change of possession, and a kicker or punter after the ball is kicked. Violations of this rule will result in a 15-yard penalty for unnecessary roughness and potential discipline. This season, if a receiver has completed a catch and has not had time to protect himself, a defensive player is prohibited from launching into him in a way that causes the defensive player's helmet, face mask, shoulder, or forearm to forcibly strike the receiver in the head or neck area. A launch is defined as leaving your feet to spring forward and upward into an opponent. Hits such as these will result in a 15-yard penalty for unnecessary roughness and potential discipline. If the receiver has the ball long enough to protect himself, or the defender does not launch as part of the hit, it is not a foul. Illegal hits on defenseless players have no place in our game and can lead to serious injuries to both the player receiving the hit and the player delivering the blow. As seen here, it is possible to hit your opponent legally, safely, and effectively while staying away from the head and neck area. The next change provides protection to the snapper on punts, field goal, and extra point attempts. Since the snapper is in a defenseless position with his head down at the start of the play, the rule was changed in 2009 on field goal and extra point attempts to prevent defensive players on the line of scrimmage from lining up over him. Last season, a defensive player on the line of scrimmage had to line up with his helmet outside the shoulder pads of the snapper in order to be in a legal formation. This provided the snapper with some protection, but there were still instances when he was hit while in a vulnerable position. Beginning in 2010, this protection will be expanded so that the defensive player must line up with his entire body, including his hands, outside the snapper's shoulder pads. This change will apply to punt plays as well. Remember, only players on the line of scrimmage are subject to this restriction. Violations of this rule will result in a 5-yard penalty for an illegal formation. This restriction does not apply if a team does not present an apparent punt, field goal, or try kick formation, or after the offensive team has assumed a set position, there is a shift, or a player goes in motion. The next rule change also involves player safety. Beginning this season, the ball will be declared dead as soon as the runner's helmet comes off during the play. This will only apply to a player with possession of the ball. The ball will be placed at the spot where the runner's helmet came off, and the status of the game and play clocks will be the same as if the runner were ruled down by contact. The next change involves the penalty for interference with the opportunity to catch a muffed kick. After a valid fair catch signal, the opportunity to catch a kick does not end if the ball is muffed. The player who signaled for the fair catch must have a reasonable opportunity to catch the muffed kick before it hits the ground without interference from kicking team players. In the past, when this occurred, it was a 15-yard penalty from the spot of the interference. Beginning in 2010, when this occurs, the receiving team will be awarded a fair catch at the spot of the interference, but no penalty yardage will be assessed. Just a reminder that if the action is deemed as unnecessary roughness, there will be a 15-yard penalty enforced. The next change standardizes the penalty enforcement for dead ball personal fouls at the end of either half. Prior to this change, dead ball fouls by the defense at the end of a half gave the offense the option to extend the period. But if there was a dead ball foul by the offense, the half or game was over with no penalty enforced. Beginning this season, if there is a dead ball personal foul by either team following the end of the second or fourth periods, there will be no option to extend, and the penalty yardage will be enforced on the second half kickoff or the kickoff in overtime if the game is tied. Beginning with the 2010 postseason, the overtime rules will change. Each team must have an opportunity to possess the ball once in overtime. However, if the team that wins the coin toss scores a touchdown on their initial possession, the game is over. If the team that wins the coin toss scores a field goal on their initial possession, the game is not over. Their opponent must be given the opportunity to possess the ball. If the score remains tied after both teams have had the opportunity to possess the ball, the game continues under normal sudden death rules. Keep in mind that the opportunity to possess applies only during kicking plays. A kickoff is the opportunity to possess for the receiving team. If the kicking team legally recovers the kick, the receiving team is considered to have had its opportunity. A punt or missed field goal that crosses the line of scrimmage and is muffed by the receiving team is considered to be an opportunity to possess for the receiving team. Remember, this rule change applies to postseason games only. In addition to these rules changes, there are several key points of emphasis for the upcoming season. The most important is sportsmanship.